On Wednesday, sane people in the world breathed a sigh of relief. President Trump and Russian President Putin finally spoke about ending the slaughter of over 1 million people in the Ukraine war, a war which at various points in the last 4 years has openly veered in planning documents and overt and serious threats toward nuclear war. They also spoke of the former alliances between the United States and Russia. Without Tsar Alexander II, we probably wouldn't have won the Civil War with Britain. But President Trump referenced the Second World War, and he said, quote, "We both reflected on the great history of our nations and the fact that we fought so successfully together in World War II, remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people, and we likewise lost so many. You're not supposed to remember that. The fact that Russia and the United States, and for that matter, pre-communist China, were allies in World War II was to have been permanently wiped from your memory banks by 70 years of British geopolitical brainwashing. The fact that the official Kremlin response included an invitation from Putin to Trump to visit Russia leaves many of us wondering if we will see the President of the United States in Moscow on Victory Day, May 9th, 2025. Addressing an actual American as opposed to imperial foreign policy was the focal point of yesterday's activities, which unfolded while we were recording our regular Wednesday update. So this is Susan Kokinda with a special update, trying to keep up with Donald Trump's hyperspeed revolution. So here's what happened. Tulsi Gabbard was confirmed as Director of National Intelligence and stands ready to take on the deep state apparatus which protects the permanent war party. President Trump punctuated the importance of her confirmation by blasting the warmongering military-industrial complex. The headline news, of course, was President Trump's 90-minute discussion with Vladimir Putin, which covered the Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollar, and other things, according to the president, but with Ukraine obviously at the center. Then, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth spoke to the Ukraine Defense Contract Group. Then, at the confirmation ceremony for Gabbard, President Trump responded to Hegseth's remarks, which shook the globalists to their core. I'm going to start with Hegseth's remarks because they're the most direct. First, our new defense secretary said, "We must recognize that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. Chasing the illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering." Then he said, "The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement." So between those two statements, the entire edifice of the Anglo-American strategy of putting NATO through Ukraine on and beyond Russia's borders just crumbled. Hegseth went on to say that any peacekeeping forces in Ukraine would not include U.S. forces, would have to be non-NATO forces, and would not be covered under Article 5, which is NATO's collective defense provision, which states that any attack on any NATO nation demands a response of all NATO nations, which means us, the United States. Hegseth's comments then became the focus of questions to President Trump at the Gabbard swearing-in ceremony a few hours later. Various press tried to get Trump to back away from Hegseth's remarks on Ukraine having to cede territory and on NATO membership, and he wouldn't do it. When asked about Ukraine ceding territory, Trump said about Zelensky, he's going to have to do what he has to do, and his poll numbers aren't great. Throughout the day, Trump's theme was stop the killing, and he continually stressed that President Putin was in agreement. Trump announced that the negotiating team on Ukraine will be led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, NSA Advisor Michael Waltz, and his own Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. In between his talk with Putin and his later back and forth with the press, President Trump did speak to NATO's puppet and nominal Ukrainian President Zelensky, who was probably rapidly figuring out that the jig is up, militarily, politically, and financially. Trump's message will be personally delivered to Zelensky by Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio tomorrow on the sidelines of the Munich Security Summit. What we saw yesterday was a significant step in the direction of an alliance of two of the major powers of the world, the United States and Russia, which could begin to dismantle the globalist system. India's President Prime Minister Modi is in Washington meeting with President Trump today and tomorrow. These countries represent three of the legs of the proposed four-power agreement, the fourth being China, which could confront and bring down the modern-day British Empire, long advocated by Lyndon LaRouche. On Saturday, February 15th, Promethean Action will feature an online class led by author Will Wirtz examining this in depth. Sign up for our newsletter for details. This has been a special midweek update. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.